Anime gets called unrealistic by people who watched Friends like that show was regular human behavior. And I'm sorry, that logic falls apart immediately. Because how are you gonna call anime dramatic when Ross was treating every breakup like the world personally betrayed him? That man was not just sad, he was conducting a full ritual every time life did not go his way. One bad day, and Buddy was moving like the sky needed to darken in support. But anime is the one doing too much? Be serious. Friends is really just anime with no fights. That is all it is. Six people with too much time, messy love lives, random loyalty issues, and a group dynamic that should have collapsed at least 7 different times. That is anime. The only reason people act like it is normal is due to everybody being in a coffee shop instead of screaming on a rooftop at sunset. Swap Central Perk for a school courtyard, and now suddenly this is somebody's favorite romance arc of all time. And Ross and Rachel? Man, that alone is enough to end the whole conversation. People always say anime drags romance out too long. Brother, Ross and Rachel had one relationship stretched so far, it started feeling like One Piece. Them two were arguing across seasons like the writers were trying to keep a family curse alive. Every time you thought it was finally over, here they come again, walking back into each other's lives like they forgot the damage from last season. That was not romance anymore. That was cardio. And Ross in general is one of the funniest examples of a character getting protected by the genre he is in. Because if Ross was in anime, nobody would be calling him relatable. A high-functioning crash out with a degree, no powers, no demon inside him, no tragic village backstory, just jealousy, insecurity, and enough sass to keep making it everybody else's problem. That is insane. Anime men at least get lore. Ross just had tenure and audacity. And Joey? Joey is basically that anime side character who should not be surviving off the way he moves, but the universe keeps rewarding him anyway. No master plan, no visible thought process, just swagger, sandwiches, and face card. That man was gliding through New York off handsome privilege and the blessing of television. You cannot tell me that is not anime behavior. He is the exact type of character where fans go, I don't know what he contributes, but I'd be sick if something happened to him. Exactly. That is the lovable side character package right there. And Chandler is just the internally fried funny guy anime fans always pretend they discovered. Every sentence is a joke. Every joke is covering something. Every little sarcastic comment feels like it got years of unresolved nonsense behind it. That man was dodging vulnerability like it was a bill collector. Anime did not invent funny broken men. Sitcoms been on that. They just gave him sweaters and let him say it with a little less eye contact. And then there's Phoebe. Phoebe is not even operating in the same genre as everybody else. Everybody else is having a normal conversation, and Phoebe walks in sounding like she just came back from a side quest involving ghosts and a stray cat with wisdom. She got random songs, random lore, random spiritual pressure. Half the time she talks like she knows something the rest of the cast is not ready for yet. That is not quirky, that is anime coded. She feels like one of those harmless side characters who ends up secretly being the most powerful person in the room. That is presence. And Monica got that anime overachiever pressure too. Everything has to be right, everything has to be organized, everything has to be controlled before she starts losing it. That is the exact same energy as those anime characters who look put together until one tiny thing goes wrong, and now the whole room feels tense. And Rachel honestly has one of the most anime-style growth arcs in the whole show. She starts off spoiled, a little lost, and dependent on everybody else. Then over time, she becomes more capable, more confident, more independent, and way more solid than where she started. That is real character progression. Anime fans are supposed to respect that. But the funniest part in all this is that Friends fans and anime fans are basically the same when it comes to defending nonsense.
But different.
Friends fans watched Ross act annoying for years and still talk about him like he was just misunderstood. No, he was not. That brother was moving through relationships with zero adult supervision. He was freestyling damage. And that is why the whole anime is unrealistic thing always makes me laugh. Because no, it is not. You just prefer your nonsense in a coffee shop. That is really it. Y'all watched six attractive adults recycle bad communication, jealousy, awkward romance, and straight up dysfunction in nice apartments, then decided that was grounded storytelling. No, that is fantasy too. That is just fantasy with beige furniture. Anime is not more ridiculous. Anime is just louder about it. Friends is low volume foolishness. Anime is full volume foolishness, but both are still foolishness. One has dramatic piano and fight scenes, the other has sarcasm and a laugh track. Same mess, different outfit. And I promise you, if Friends came out today as an anime, people would call it peak. Ross would be standing in the rain saying Rachel's name like he is about to unlock a forbidden form. Rachel would turn around with wind blowing through her hair for absolutely no reason. Joey would sense a sandwich from across the city like he has observation hockey. Phoebe would sing one weird little song and the comment section would call her best girl by the end of the week. And Chandler would make one funny line while looking a little tired, and suddenly people would start posting edits about how he is secretly the deepest character in the series. And honestly, they would not even be wrong. So no, anime is not the weird one. Y'all were just raised on white people nonsense and got comfortable. That is all this is.